Playing a role in League of Legends has a lot of connotations, and the one that we often immediately jump to and the one that we automatically think of are the role selections when you queue up for a game. We know you have top, jungle, mid, AD carry or bot lane, and support. And all these roles kind of have their defined styles as to the way champions that fit those roles, as well as uh, play styles that go with those roles as well. But what does it mean to play your role? So if we're talking on that fundamental levels as far as champ select or just even position selection, what is a top laner? A top laner is a role that is in the top lane. It makes sense, kind of goes with the name. But what happens with those top lane roles? Effectively, you have top laners that are tank players. You have top laners who are um, fighters, top laners who are bruisers, ranged top laners. But what does that context mean when you are playing your role in the game? Same thing with all the other roles, really. League of Legends is like many sports games, a team dynamic. You have to think of where your strengths cover another person's weaknesses, and vice versa, where that person's strengths cover your weaknesses. Whether you're someone who is a very aggressive player, you may need somebody who's a bit more reserved and is able to cover when you overextend or misplay. Likewise, when people queue into games, they find themselves solely wanting to be the carry, solely wanting to be. We've been forced a narrative from YouTubers, from league YouTubers, content providers, how to solo carry your games, how to hard carry, how to 1v9, things of that nature. We're trying to do anything but carry in the traditional sense is looked at as trolling or is looked at as not try harding or not trying to win. Um, but what does that look like? You may enter a game on a carry champion. So what is a carry champion? I guess a carry champion are champions such as assassins, such as AD carries or AP carries. They're not generally your tanks or your bruisers, even though bruisers can carry. Just within a game and the way games play out in different situations and circumstances, yes, any champion can carry a game, and we'll get to that a little bit later. But traditionally, your carries are champions that output a lot of damage and are generally either safe when doing so or have an ability to escape when outputting that damage, or are built around so that way that person can deliver their damage without any issue. So why am I bringing this up? As the low elo god that I am, I find that a lot of people tend to not understand that roles change as the game progresses. Simple, roles change as the game progresses. A game may start off with the tank player not being the carry in the top lane or in the jungle, and all of a sudden they get a few kills, they're unkillable by the enemy team, and they're doling out the most damage on for their team. They're the ones that are able to zone. They're the ones that are able to hold an opponent down or priority target down, so that the rest of the team can close in and make the plays. I think often it's like Maokai. Maokai is a great example because Maokai surprisingly does a decent amount of damage, but also has so much displacement. Another champion may be someone like a Nautilus, who can just hold you down long enough and be unkillable long enough to be able to dish out and dole the damage, or at least stall for higher DPS units to come and assist. But the idea of carrying is so ambiguous in League of Legends because all you learn or all that you're told is you have to carry, be the carry, you have to carry, be the carry. You find often that when people aren't the carry or they feel that they aren't carrying, they either have failed their teams or they feel that there's no future, there's no goal, like the game is over. So take someone who may take like an Akali into the top lane or Fiora, and they go 0-3, 0-4, 0-6 in lane. In low MMR, low elo, you often find that person is the first one to throw up the 15-minute surrender vote, or even in all chat, maybe not in all chat, but at least in the team chat, will go out of the way to say, "GG, game's over." You know, they're not looking at the whole picture. They're looking at their team, or they're looking at their self, and they're looking at their individual play, and going, well, if I can't carry, there's no way anybody else can carry, because that's the narrative that we've been almost force fed since the start of this game. So you're gonna want your carries to be able, or you're gonna want that player to be able to look around the map and look at his teammates. He may be 0-6, but his bot lane might be 12-1. You know, the AD carry might be, and support may be doing a wonderful job of dominating the enemy. His mid laner may have 6 kills. You know, these are all things that player isn't looking at that moment or at that time, but is already making the idea that, well, I can't carry. So now what should that player do? Realistically, if you play to the champion strength, let's just go with Fiora. If you play to the champion strength, then you would say that player should probably be split pushing. But how can someone who's so far behind split push if every time they go to split push they get killed by the enemy laner that they've fed, or the or gank or something? They get zoned out, they get roamed on. So you may start to think, okay, well, what if that Fiora were to really build for the team fight and build very tanky? They could be a front line to protect their mid laner who's ahead, to protect their bot lane that's ahead. A lot of people don't have that understanding. A lot of people don't think, wow, this is something that I should do. I could probably do this and be able to take over the game. Instead, they go, well, I just need to get to my power spike. I'm just going to AFK farm, or I'm just going to stand over here and not aid my team, because I need to get to the strength position in which I need to achieve. And you find that person often is the one that continues to go from 0-6 to 0-8 to maybe 1-10 if they're able to get a kill back. But at that point, they're super far behind. They got a lucky kill, and now they've reset their gold value. It'd almost be better if they were to continue losing or continue dying, but not getting any kills, because then at least they're not giving the enemy more gold. This brings me to my next point of the understanding of what a carry is, or the carry positions, as far as Dota, Defense of the Ancient. So in Dota, there's a system, a number system, and I always screw up which order it is, but they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and for this sake, because it may be 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, I'm just gonna go with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The 1 is who you would think of as the hard carry, the person who they're going to try and funnel the most gold into, the person that they're going to try and give the most resources to. Traditionally in League of Legends, the 1 would be the mid laner, because you think that mid laner, in my head, whenever I think of mid lane, for some reason my brain always just thinks the Zed. I know he hasn't been meta in a very long time, but my brain, it's between Zed and Orianna. Whenever I think of mid lane, it might be season 3 reminisce, but so you want your mid laner to be generally the most fed, hardest carrying person on your team. The 2 is your secondary carry, or in League of Legends would most likely be your AD carry. It's not to say that they can't interchange. You can't have a super fed AD carry and a decently fed mid laner, or a super fed mid laner and decently fed AD carry, but just going down the list, right? So traditionally in League of Legends, it's always been mid lane's most fed, AD carries secondarily fed. 3, 4, and 5 are very interesting, because 3 can also be interchangeable with 2. So your 3 is generally your top laner if your top laner is a carry. So if you have a carry style top laner and your AD carries on either more like let's say your top laner is Fiora doing well and your AD carries on Fiora, who's more utility Fiora, Jesus, Ashe, who is more supportive in the sense, then you would find that yeah, you have your 1 and 2 potentially being your mid laner as the 1 and your top laner as your 2. Which means the AD carry has to take that step back and go, okay, I don't need to make the craziest plays. I don't need to flash in and auto attack. I just need to play my role, play my position. I just need to auto attack, kite, initiate if you're on Virus, Ashe, Jhin. These are all things that player now, instead of being, oh, I need to make sure I'm doling out the most damage and the highest DPS in the game, they're saying, okay, I just need to make sure that I am aiding my team. Now, for someone like Ashe, because we all know Ashe can go a very attack heavy, DPS heavy build, similar to Varus. But once you've hit that point, you go, okay, my team just needs me to initiate. Instead of going for high DPS, now you might transition to a higher cooldown build. With that higher cooldown build, you're going to be able to get your W's off more frequently, because normally with cooldown comes mana, Essence Reaver, and all that. So you're going to be able to get your W's off more. Your ult's going to be on a shorter cooldown. Your Hawk Shot is going to be up more frequently. You're going to be able to do a lot of things that, in the traditional sense, aren't DPS reliant, but allow you to aid and help your team. Then you get to, so traditionally, like I said, you have mid laner, AD, let's say mid laner and AD carry and top, or AD carry and top have generally been interchangeable for the 2 and the 3. But then we have metas where you have like Nidalees and Graves as junglers. These are hard carry junglers as well. And if someone is, or Kindred is also Lee Sin, Kha'Zix. If people are playing these hard carry, Rengar, Jesus, they have so many carries in this game for jungle position. If someone is playing these jungle position and they're getting super ahead, let's say they're making their ganks and they're getting the kills from their teammates that would normally be going to the teammates, but they're either last hitting them just because of the amount of damage they're doing, or just luckily hitting them with the burst combo, or whatever it may be, then that jungler becomes the fed position. Then you have to restructure that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 system again. But playing your position is about, or playing your role is about knowing where you fall in that at the current time of the game. Because yes, Zed may be the most fed. Zed may be popping off and be super duper duper strong, right? But at the end of the day, if the Kha'Zix that's playing with Zed, or the Lee Sin that's playing with Zed, is 12 and 1 and 2, and Zed is 2 and 0 and 8, that Kha'Zix has more gold. The Kha'Zix is going to have, or I guess I said Lee Sin, but the jungler is going to have far more impact and far more. We'll just go with damage, because if they're utilizing their money right, they're buying more damage items or ahead of the Zed if they're keeping up with farm and all the other things. Now we get to the tricky ones, or you get to, like I said, the last 3, the 3, 4, 5. Because normally, and I'll go from the bottom up, normally your 5 position is your support. That's just a fact of the matter. Your support basically plays the game with half the amount of gold as the majority of the team, sometimes less. And support champions are built in a manner where they do not need a lot of gold. Their abilities compensate for not having as much income. That's why when like a Lulu or a Thresh or something is overtuned, and then they start flexing in different roles like mid lane and top lane, it becomes like, oh, okay, this champion's broken, because with a little bit more gold, they become almost unstoppable. And then Riot comes in and does their nerfing and adjustments and whatnot. But as we're seeing, like I said, in that 5 position is generally and normally the support, and that 4 position is normally, or at least initially, was the jungler. And like I've already said, the jungler, depending on the champion that they're playing and depending on how the game is going, can easily move from being a 4 to a 2. Likewise, if and in champ select, as we're selecting our champions and as we're picking how we want to play, we should be thinking as we're going down, hover your champions when you're in champ select, right? So you see like, oh, okay, my let's pretend that champ select was lined up in the same order where you had your top laner as your first pick, your jungler as your second pick, your mid laner, right? If you see that your top laner and your jungler are both picking carries, right? So they pick a I don't know. They go with Camille and they go with Lee Sin, right? And you're going, okay, those are two high impact, high damage, and you're going to also hope and or assume that they're going to play those to the best of their abilities. As a mid laner, I'm not saying completely go Doingby mode and select like Nautilus in the mid lane. That's not what I'm saying. Unless the matchup looks right, like on the other side of the map, where you're like, okay, that's probably going to be the mid laner. Like I can shut him down with the Nautilus or something. I would say this is where you go, okay, I can still play a high damage, high output mid laner, but this is where instead of locking in that Zed, you may go, oh, well, maybe Karma fits here. Or maybe I can play that utility build on Ari or Veigar where you use the Hextech GLP. I'm using a lot of item terminology that could like be outdated in like a month or something if they remove these items, but you would go more utility oriented because you see you have a lot of damage. Meanwhile, the AD carry is also seeing damage from the first two picks. They're seeing utility from the second one. This gives them the idea that, okay, well, the support is probably going to play either Enchanter or an Engager, so tank. Hopefully, the support is seeing, okay, we have no tanks, no engage, no front line, so I need to play a tank. Like with this team comp, you're not going to want on support someone to play like Yuumi, because then you really don't have much to go for. Your only engage will be Lee Sin, and he's just going in to try and kick somebody in and potentially just sacrifice himself for the play. But at that point, if you're at the AD carry role, you're probably going to be going, okay, so we have a decent amount of damage. We have hopefully engage from my support, and the mid laner is going a little bit more utility. That's when you can go lean more towards your, I would say, utility focused ADs, your Varus, your Ashe, your Jhin. But let's say top lane picks Maokai, the jungler picks Sejuani, or top lane picks Renekton, the jungler picks Sejuani, your mid laner locks in, we'll go with Karma again or something. At that point, you might say, okay, as an AD carry, I need to maybe play somebody like Jinx, somebody like Vayne, someone has a little bit more DPS output, because we all know Renekton will fall off as the game progresses, and we all know that Karma isn't going to do the most damage unless she gets like overfed. We've all seen Bjergsen's pentakills on Karma. We know that's like his uber super pocket pick champion. Like he'll bust out Syndra, but once that Karma comes out, other team better be scared. So yeah, you might want to go a higher DPS, and likewise your support may want to go either an Enchanter or even lock in someone that does more damage, like a Brand or a Vel'Koz. And I know as an AD carry player, you may go, oh god, I don't have a real support, you're going to be taking the kills. But fundamentally, if everyone is playing their roles and those roles are fluid and they shift, then sure, the Brand or the Vel'Koz may get the first 2 kills in lane. But that's only to A, keep you alive, and B, get themselves going to be able to kind of dominate the lane. Supports dictate laning phase in the bot lane. It's the AD carry's job to get fed off of a fed support or a support feeding them to then transition that into a mid and late game carry. It's nice as AD carry when you get the first 3 kills in lane or 4 kills in lane, but at the end of the day, your job is to farm up, secure kills that you can safely without dying, and then scale into the late game. And that's, again, AD carries understanding their roles. So all in all, when it comes to understanding and playing your roles, and like I said, using the breakdown from Dota's how they have their structure. League, we don't have anything really like that. We just kind of go in and everybody's supposed to be the carry. But there are finite resources to the game. And if you don't understand how to manage those resources, then you may not understand how to play as a team and how to best help your team help you secure the win. That's all I have to say for now. Thanks for hanging out, King's Corner. Make sure you like, subscribe, click all the stuff down there that will help you stay tuned for the next postings. And I appreciate you hanging out with me. Again, this is King's Corner. See you guys next time.